Skull Rock Podcast is brought to you by the generosity of the following companies. The Old Mill Press, publishing beautifully crafted books that illuminate our world. To learn more, visit theoldmillpress.com. And by listeners like you.
Skull Rock Podcast is made possible by donations from listeners like you. We want to thank the following supporters: Michael Corbett, Christine R. Banas, Gold Tier members, Spencer Wright, Joshua Volkert, and Platinum Tier member Steve Munch. If you want to support this show, please click our link in the show notes. If you would like to advertise your event or business, please email aljon@skullrockpodcast.com. Thank you for listening and for your continued support of everything we do.
Hi, this is animator Darlie Brewster, and you're listening to the Skull Rock Podcast.
Aye, mateys, remember this as the day you sailed with the Skull Rock Podcast. Who among you thinks he has what it takes to join the Skull Rock's ruddy crew? Then prepare to be put to the test and face the trials of a Skull Rock life. Proceed at your own risk, and mark well me words, mateys. Dead men tell no tale.
Welcome to Skull Rock Podcast, the show about all things Disney and pop culture. Every week we take you behind the scenes of some of your favorite Disney films, theme park attractions, performances, books, music, as well as what's streaming, what's in theaters, and what's going on in this universe of entertainment. Hello, I'm Aljon Go, a musician, lifelong Disney, Marvel, Star Wars, and pop culture fan, and you can contact me, Aljon, A-L-J-O-N, at skullrockpodcast.com.
And I'm Dave Bossert, artist, filmmaker, author, and welcome to the Skull Rock Podcast. If you love Disney and pop culture, please subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. You can also like and follow us on Facebook, X, Blue Sky, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. You can also email me at dave@skullrockpodcast.com. Aljon, I can't even believe it's the first week of December. Wow. I mean, the year is going to be over in a flash. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving.
You too, and I hope you had a good one. And yes, it was busy. We had multiple family dinners to go to, and the kids were running a rough shot across the house because Daddy was home, took a few days off from work, and I'm sure I'm going to have a landslide of emails and work when I come back into the office on Monday as we release this show. But you know what? I can't complain.
No, it was just a crazy week. You know, I had done the CTN Expo the week before.
That's right.
The weekend before Thanksgiving. So I kind of crashed and burned after that, and didn't really do a whole heck of a lot except go to the movies and watch shows and, you know, kind of get prepped for Thanksgiving. So
that's right.
But we have a great show today.
Yes.
We've got part one of our interview with Imagineer and incredible artist Eric Robison. And I just absolutely love his artwork, Aljon.
Same here. He's got such a flair. It's great stuff. And not only that, but man, is he just a dynamo. He's just such a amazingly energetic and, person to be around, and it's infectious. So we're going to talk to Eric and talk to him about what makes him tick in his career. And I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, he's really a terrific individual. And again, I can't tell our listeners anymore how much I love his artwork.
Right.
I just think he's got such command of the Fab Five characters and just, his architectural renderings and paintings, his visual development for theme parks. It's just off the charts. Fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can't wait to get to our conversation with him.
100%. And we've got a lot of meat on this podcast as well. We're going to talk about what we're watching and streaming. Everybody seems to like that. But once again, we have some awesome email. I can't believe it, Dave.
Yeah, go for it. Hit the button.
Okay.
I wanted to mention more about Paul from Parts Unknown.
Okay.
Because we record parts of our show for Monday on Sunday morning, and the Sunday before Thanksgiving, we recorded our show, and then I had to go back down to the CTN Expo, and I moderated a panel with some young filmmakers showing some shorts that they had done. And one of those people who was on the panel was Paul from Parts Unknown.
Did you know this in advance?
I had no idea in advance, So anyway, Paul showed his short film, Amy and Frog, which is absolutely fantastic. It just got accepted into the London Film Festival. And he is such a nice guy. The short is making its round through the festival circuits, and I hope people out there get a chance to see it. It's beautifully done. And Paul from Parts Unknown, because we're just going to continue to call him Paul from Parts Unknown. In fact, he lives in Tokyo. I almost feel like we should make him a special correspondent to the Skull Rock podcast.
Might as well.
Reporting on animation going-ons in Asia, So anyway, Paul from Parts Unknown, it was great meeting you. It was great moderating a panel with you. I loved your short film, Amy and Frog. And I wish you all the best with that. Now, I did get an email, a rather lengthy email, Aljon, I might add.
Okay.
Regarding, it was from a listener named Jim, who's in Los Angeles. And he starts out, he says, I love your podcast and really appreciate that you dive deep into Disney history, avoiding the surface level fluff. I thought your interview with Joe Hale, for example, was so important. I have recently been getting caught up and listening to the Ron Clemens episodes, which were amazing. And the episode on Steve Anderson's book, which I devoured, such a great book and so beautifully produced. I have several of your books and particularly appreciate your Roy Disney book, which I've owned for years. Well, Jim, thank you so much for that. Now, Jim goes on to talk about a lot of things, including sort of where Disney films are going.
Okay.
He says, I can't watch Wish, which I saw 4 times in the theater, without acknowledging that it feels like the creators spent more time deciding the diversity of Asha's friends than developing them into engaging personalities. Jim, I couldn't agree with you more on that. He goes on to say, what prompts me to write was suffering through Moana 2. Oh, my. And he goes on from there. I don't want to go into too much of this, Aljon, because we're going to talk about Moana 2. But I did not see Moana 2 over the Thanksgiving holidays just because it was doing such big box office that, it was like too many people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm going to try and go see it this coming week and report on it next week. But he just goes on to talk about, his dissatisfaction with some of the Disney films. He says, I will read this. He says, until now, I think Chicken Little is universally thought of Disney's worst animated feature, and Moana 2 makes that look like Cinderella.
Aye.
Okay. So there he goes. Anyway, yeah, I know. It's crazy. He says, thank you for reading this, carrying the torch, and for creating space for us to access in-depth Disney history. If you end up sharing my letter, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that's Jim from Los Angeles.
Hey, Jim.
I didn't want to read it all, Jim, but I do appreciate you writing, and I did send you a response, and we will be talking about Moana 2.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Next week. I am going to go see it. Look, all of these people rushing out to see it and having, we're going to talk about it shortly, a huge box office, record-breaking box office, there's got to be something there. So I want to go see it.
Yeah, same here. I'm going to take the family to see it at some point, and we'll talk about it. Hopefully I'll talk about it along with you next week for the show. Yeah. But, I think we are getting to that era where a lot of the pandemic vestiges are being shed, I'm hoping that quality controls and writing, and it's not just, look, we watch a lot of content, and I hate the fact that we use the term content on here, because it's stories, it's craft, it's all these things, it's art, but we want to make sure that the best part of the art, which is what we love about Disney and a lot of the golden era and the Renaissance era that we're talking about, is that the fact that Disney steps its game up and puts out quality stuff that is vetted and put through amazing directors and writers and everything, great animators, artists, and it just keeps on getting developed. And it's not just content for content's sake, or it's, you know what I'm saying, Dave? It's not, it's, we care about these projects. We care, the people that are involved in it and telling those stories. And I just hate having to use the term just content, but, once again, I think that's the whole thing about the pandemic. Everybody was rushing out. The streaming wars are in full swing. So it's like, this is the context in which we're seeing a lot of this new material come up, is the race for quote unquote content and getting people out, and knee-jerk reactions to trying to bring people back into the theaters, the lack of quality, and care and attention to detail, a lot of the fundamentals that Dave calls out on a weekly basis in terms of animation, that's lacking. So I'm hoping that, we get back down to brass tacks, and they get back down to their core competencies, which is making great animated feature films.
Yeah, no, listen, I couldn't agree with you more. And look, all we can do is give you our opinions. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who are going to say they love Moana 2, and there's going to be people who don't like it. So, but what really matters is our opinion. No. In all seriousness, we're just going to give you our honest opinion, and that's what's coming up next on some of the stuff we've been consuming over the last week.
There you go. Well, thank you so much for writing us. Feel free. As I said, there's a link in our show notes. You can send us a voicemail if you want to send us this huge tirade. We'll play it. We'll play it on the show. You send us an email, it's going to be read over air like this, or over the podcast. So please send us an email. Let us know where you're from, and how you found Skull Rock Podcast as well. We'd love to hear from you. It's almost time for our yearly wrap up. So, this is a globally international show. So thank you so much to every one of our listeners, all of our supporters, that are producing this show for us for free. And send us those emails. Like I said, Aljon or Dave at skullrockpodcast.com. And now it's time for our picks of the week. Dave, what have we been watching?
Well, Aljon, I have, like I said, I spent the week just loafing around doing, just watching stuff. After the CTN Expo, I was kind of wiped out, and I just spent the entire last week going to the movies and going to plays. So I saw Wicked Part 1 in IMAX. And I absolutely loved this movie. I thought it was spectacular. Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo are spectacular in this movie. It's got a wonderful cast. The story moves along. The songs are fantastic. This is musical theater on the screen at its best, as far as I'm concerned. Ariana Grande, I mean, I've read articles since seeing the movie, and some people are comparing her to Lucille Ball in her comedic timing and her presence on screen. She is absolutely fantastic. Cynthia Erivo is incredible as Elphaba. And I mean, what voices both of them have. This is a spectacular movie. You should see this absolutely on a big screen. The production design is just off the charts. The production value is off the charts. The just every aspect of this movie hit it for me. It checked all the boxes.
Nice.
Jeff Goldblum is the Wizard of Oz. Peter Dinklage plays Dr. Dillamond. He does a voice for the character. Michelle Yeoh, Madame Morrible. It's just an absolute great cast. And as a synopsis, misunderstood because her green skin, a young woman named Alphaba forges an unlikely but profound friendship with Galinda, a student with an unflinching desire for popularity. Following an encounter with the Wizard of Oz, their relationship soon reaches a crossroads as their lives begin to take very different paths. So it's a wonderful film. I can't say enough about it. Now, after seeing Wicked 2, I went to see Gladiator 2. It was the sequels.
Yeah.
And did you see Gladiator, the original with Russell Crowe?
Loved it.
Yeah, it's a fantastic movie, right?
Absolutely.
Gladiator 2 is the sequel we don't need. Okay. This is really, I was bored with this movie, and I'm really sad to say that because there was a really great cast here. Paul Mescal is the star. Denzel Washington plays the villain. Pedro Pascal is Marcus Aurelius, or Acarius, something like that.
Okay.
Anyway. Connie Nielsen plays Lucia, the mother of Paul Mescal's character, Lucius. This got to be almost laughable when there was a battle in the Colosseum between two ships. And they had they flooded the Colosseum and they reenacted a naval battle, and they had sharks in the water. Okay.
Oh boy.
It just crossed the line into ridiculous. Okay. So I couldn't wait for this movie to end. I did not really enjoy it that much, other than I enjoyed some of the performances, which, you can't fault the actors when there's a bad script. And that's what this was all about. Okay, so Aljon, then the day after Thanksgiving, I did go see Back to the Future, the musical, at the Pantages Theater in Hollywood.
Whoa.
Back to the Future, the musical, is a musical with music and lyrics by Alan Silvestri and Glenn Ballard, and a book by Bob Gale. It is adopted from the 1985 film Back to the Future by Robert Zemeckis and Gale. The show features original music as well as songs featured in the film. So this, I didn't know what to expect when I went to see this.
Yeah.
It was really good.
Whoa. Okay.
It was really, a really terrific cast. The actor who plays Marty McFly's character, Marty McFly,
the time traveler kid.
Yeah, who played it in the movie?
Michael J. Fox.
Michael J. Fox. Thank you. So the Michael J. Fox character, Marty McFly, was played by a terrific stage actor. And he was great. The actor who plays George McFly, Marty's father, who was played by Kristen Glover in the original movie, that stage actor was absolutely terrific. If I had any criticism, I think the guy playing Dr. Emmett Brown, the Christopher Lloyd character,
yeah.
It felt like he was walking it home. But other than that, this was really a great stage production. They had a DeLorean on stage. They had all kinds of visual special effects, practical effects and projected effects.
Nice.
Really done exceedingly well. There were hugely funny moments during the musical. I saw it, this is the touring company. I think it's closing here this week, and it goes up to Portland. So this is a show that's traveling around to all the major cities in the U.S. If you get a chance to see it in your neck of the woods, go see it. It's actually worth seeing. It's really well done, and it made Nancy and I want to see the original Back to the Future movie, which we're going to watch at some point this week.
That's great. I watch it every year. It's so good.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's terrific.
Yes.
Now, on the small screen, I did watch Spellbound, which is from Skydance Animation.
Okay.
Frankly, Aljon, this is just a movie that is relatively forgettable. It was sort of derivative of things I've already seen. This is from Rotten Tomatoes. Spellbound largely conforms to the typical beats of a road narrative, albeit sprinkled with some surprising moments. Look, it's not a bad looking movie, but it just felt like a movie that I had seen before,
Yeah.
And, John Lithgow does a character voice, Nicole Kidman, Javier Bardem, Nathan Lane, Rachel Zegler. It's just you watch this film and it's sort of like it blends with all these other movies. The big difference, like to me, with The Wild Robot that I saw a few months ago was The Wild Robot has a really good story to it. It has a heart to the movie, and visually it's different. It looks different than the other animated films out there, right? This Spellbound from Skydance Animation, you could have just slapped a Disney animation name on it, or DreamWorks, or Illuminations. It doesn't appear, or Pixar for that matter. It doesn't appear to have a Skydance hasn't developed a house style. They're not experimenting with different looks for animated films like we've seen with, as I mentioned, The Wild Robot this year, but a year or two ago we had Teenage Ninja Turtles, right?
Yeah.
That film had a visually different look to it. This film, it was when I finished with it, it was like so. The songs were forgettable. And by the way, I don't say that lightly, because the songs were done by Alan Menken.
Yeah, right.
I hate to say it, I like Alan, but it's just, one of those films that is very forgettable. I don't need to see it again. So I'm not gonna continue to sort of drag it out. I was actually, though, looking for a synopsis of this movie, and for whatever reason I can't seem to find it. Anyway, it's on Netflix. It's got a 5.7 out of 10 on IMDb. Rotten Tomatoes gives it 43%. Rotten Tomatoes says it all, 43%.
Wow.
It's the first time seeing that.
Oh,
Yeah. Also on the small screen, Aljon, I saw an Almost Christmas Story, which is an animated short that's on Disney Plus.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah. So Moon, a young owl, finds himself stuck in a Christmas tree destined for Rockefeller Plaza. In his attempt to escape the city, Moon befriends a lost little girl named Luna. They embark on an adventure discovering the magic of the holiday season. This is a beautifully crafted animated short. I love this.
I'm glad you saw. I'm glad you mentioned it, because I saw it as well. It's really nice.
Yeah, and by the way, it has a different look to it.
Yeah.
It has a completely different visual style, something I hadn't seen before, which, aside from a very good story, the look of it, the world they created was wonderful. And I really enjoyed this. So check that out on Disney Plus. And Almost Christmas Story. It's only 21 minutes long, but it's a wonderful 21 minutes. And, it's not like you're going to get through 21 minutes and wish you had that back.
No, that's great. You're right. Absolutely.
It's worth watching a couple of times, because it really is beautifully crafted. I loved it.
Yeah.
I also watched a handful of episodes of A Man on the Inside, which is a brand new comedy series that dropped on Netflix starring Ted Danson. And he plays a retired professor who gets a new lease on life when a private investigator hires him to go undercover in a San Francisco retirement home. This is really funny and poignant at the same time. It's I just really enjoy watching Ted Danson. He's a terrific actor.
Yes.
A terrific comedy actor. So check that out on Netflix. Over on Apple Plus, I started watching Silo season 2. Right. So Silo, if you remember, is in a ruined and toxic future. A community exists in a giant underground silo that plunges hundreds of stories deep. There, people live in a society full of regulations they believe are meant to protect them. So season 2 is dropped, starring Rebecca Ferguson, who's absolutely fantastic. Tim Robbins is in it. Ian Glenn. Harriet Walter, David Aiello was in it in the first season along with Rashida Jones. Really terrific series. And like I said, season 2, it has an 8.1 out of 10 on IMDb, 88% on Rotten Tomatoes. And you can watch that on Apple TV. And then also on Apple TV, season 2 of Bad Sisters.
Yes.
Which I absolutely love. I think this is a fantastic show. The Garvey sisters are bound together by the premature deaths of their parents and the promise they made to always protect one another. It stars Sharon Horgan, who's one of the creators of the show. Eve Houston, who I've mentioned before, she was in a show that was with Nicole Kidman and oh God, I can't remember his name. Anyway, Eve Houston is Bono's daughter.
Yes,
and she's terrific. Eva Berthisel, Daryl McCormick. Fiona Shaw. It's on Apple TV. It's got an 8.3 on IMDb. Rotten Tomatoes, 92%. I love these sisters. They're fabulous.
Nice.
If you haven't watched the show, check out season 1, and then you can go right into season 2. So that is what I've been watching, Al John. Whew, that was a lot of stuff.
That's
Holy mackerel. You know, what have you been watching?
Well, I've been watching, listening, and checking some things out. First of all, Chicago is one of my favorite bands, Dave. I can't tell you how much I love this band. My mom turned me on to Chicago, rest in peace, when I was growing up. And Color My World is one of my favorite songs. Every time I hear that song, I think about my mother. And we would oftentimes play that on the guitar, me and the guitar, my mom on the piano, and play it. And it just brings back a lot of fond memories. And I've been a big fan of the band. And even though I came up in the 80s era of Chicago, I did listen to a lot of the old classic 70s and 70s era band. But now they're reached a milestone, 55 years, Dave. Chicago and Friends Live at 55, available right now. It just dropped. Multiple formats. It's streaming on your playable services, etc. But it's a DVD, 2 CD, Blu-ray, 4K, UHD, every multiple format you can imagine. But it's a live show. It's a 2.5-hour event recorded this past November in Ovation Hall at Ocean City Casino Resort in Atlantic City, New Jersey, in front of a live audience of 10,000 fans over 2 nights.
Wow.
It's been produced by award-winning producer Barry Summers as part of his critically acclaimed Decades Rock Concert Live series. And the band, now there are some original members of the band in the horn section left, but it's joined by special guest Robin Thicke, Chris Daughtry, Steve Vai, voice play, the a cappella band, Judith Hill, Robert Randolph, and Kingfish Ingram, who's an amazing guitar player like Steve Vai. And each performance is visualized in vibrant video and animation. So, of course, they have the big special effects and the big cycloramas and the stuff in the background and everything. but it's a really well done, concert video, and the album is great to stream. I love the band a lot. I really wish, I really think that Chris Daughtry modernizes everything that he touches. He just is such an amazing singer. Robin Thicke, and, the rest of the band. But I will say that me and my musical ear, I feel that if you're joining now this is great, but if you're joining a band for a tribute for their 55 years, really think about how you pay tribute to the original source material, because I believe some of the other R&B singers tend to oversing, and it overshadows the great melodies that the band had written that have stood the test of time over 55 years. That's just my own thing, right, Dave? I mean,
yeah,
I feel like, now I also understand the other flip side of it. The band asked these people to join them on stage. Therefore, they bring, they have something that they want to bring to the table in terms of their styling and what they bring. I understand their artistry. I understand that. But there is something to be said about how these songs last the test of time, and honor that by doing the melody at least at the outset, and then embellishing, moving forward in the song. But that's just my producer's hat.
I got a funny story about Chicago.
Okay.
So we went to Las Vegas to meet up with some friends. This is a number of years ago. We get there, and they had gotten tickets for all of us to see Chicago, and I kept thinking it was Chicago the play. Right? The musical.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, we'll see Chicago, right? And it wasn't until we actually got into the venue that I realized we were seeing Chicago the band.
Now this is what you told me. You told me you were going to see Chicago a couple months ago, and then it was actually the band. That's hilarious.
That was it, So I wound up, going to a Chicago concert. They were terrific, by the way.
Okay, good.
They were playing all their hits.
Yeah, I mean,
Summer in the Park and all of that stuff. Yeah.
No,
I think that's one of theirs, right?
Yeah, Saturday in the Park.
Saturday in the Park. Thank you. Yeah.
That's hilarious. Oh, but anyway, so overall, I think it's very good, and like I said, it's the band, it's ever since they were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which is a whole other can of worms. I can't wait to talk to you about at some point. They seem to, they seem to be winding down, and I get it. They've been at it for 55 years, and so many of these great classic rock bands are. But it's worth a check out. So please check that out. Now, in terms of the other streaming stuff, I saw Gary. Gary is a documentary on Peacock that explores Gary Coleman and his fame as a child star and his struggles of living in the spotlight, financial troubles, depression, and the controversy surrounding his tragic death at the age of 42, providing insight into his private world. I can say that being an 80s pop culture kid, I really love Different Strokes and Gary Coleman. I loved watching his show, and it's so sad that a lot of the cast has passed now, and very tragically, some of these kid actors. But this is just a story of how a guy, Gary Coleman, had his battles with his kidneys, and had been on dialysis for all of his life, and had and of course this story hits home because my wife also is a kidney transplant patient. My sister-in-law is a kidney transplant patient. So we understand, what goes on there, but he just seemed to be very bitter in his later years, and then got married to somebody that maybe not have had the best, his best interest at heart, which is very sad. So, if you want to check out, Gary Coleman and his life, I think this was put together really well. It's on Peacock. Check it out. I also saw,
Aljon, I was just going to add in. I mean, there are so many tragic stories of child actors.
Oh, 100%.
So many. I mean, on the Disney side, go back to Bobby Driscoll, who was in the Song of the South in 1946 and went on to do so many other things with Disney.
Yeah.
But by the late 50s, early 60s, it kind of aged out and was having trouble getting acting roles and got mixed up in drugs. And, I mean, it's such a sad story how that ended. And there's so many others like that over the years.
Yeah, it's really sad, and how people, think of these child actors as cash cows, and once they stop, performing, or for whatever reason, or they're typecast or whatever,
they age out.
They age out.
They're cash cows until they're not.
Exactly, and then people just struggle to get money from them.
Yeah, and some of them, their parents, squandered their earnings, and they didn't have anything left, and by the way, then there's those really success stories of child actors like Ron Howard.
Sure. Sure.
I mean, Ron Howard, certainly had and still has a very vibrant career and transitioned from acting into directing.
I find that these documentaries are cautionary tales. So yeah, I think if you want to, it's a good look for sure. I did see another funny man in the form of Jack Black. We saw the new Christmas classic, Dear Santa, and it's streaming now on Paramount Plus. When a young boy mails his Christmas wish to Santa with one crucial spelling error, the devilish Jack Black arrives to wreak havoc on the holidays. And you can only imagine this child has dyslexia, and instead of sending his Christmas letter to Santa, he sends it to Satan. And now this movie is directed by Bobby Farrelly, the Farrelly brothers. And,
the
Farrelly brothers.
There's
Something About Mary, Liar, Liar, or I'm sorry, Me, Myself, and Irene. Just a lot of those great quintessential comedies of the late 90s, early 2000s. It's writers Ricky Britt, Peter Farrelly, Dan Ewan. Great writing. And, of course, a cast of all-stars. You have Keegan-Michael Key, Brianne Honey, Howie Rather, Robert Timothy Smith is in it. Just a lot of people along with Post Malone, who has a guest slot in this, Hayes MacArthur. It's funny in the way I will say that Dear Santa is kind of like the antithesis of the Santa Claus, and Aladdin, kid makes wishes, battles for his soul. There's a twist at the end. Jack Black, of course, funny as all get out. And once again, proving that he can carry a film. This film isn't without its flaws. There's some pacing issues in it, in the middle. But I thought the child actors did a fine job for being child actors. It's really difficult. They weren't wooden or anything. I thought there was some heart in the film, and but where it could have, the Farrelly brothers have a lot of great peaks and valleys, highs and lows that literally are like belly laugh full, that I would expect from the Farrelly brothers. I think because of the fact that there are children involved, I think they didn't go too over the top. So I felt like there was some holding back of the humor. So it's fair. It's a fair to Midland film for me, but still, Jack Black makes it worth watching. So please check that out. More documentaries, Dave. I saw Buy Now, The Shopping Conspiracy, now on Netflix. This pulls back the curtain on the world's top brands, exposing hidden tactics and covert strategies used to keep all of us locked in an endless cycle of buying, no matter the cost. This is kind of apropos because this is the holiday season now. Black Friday just happened, and we are a society that just buys now. Talks about Amazon and about how much consumer waste is out there and how companies are making things so cheaply, and it's more cost effective to buy another one versus fixing the one that just was broken. And I hate that. I really do hate that. And as a consumer and as someone that is involved in making things, I understand the responsibility that we have to people and really the responsibility too that is on the consumer for us to reduce waste. I recycle. I don't know if that's enough. There are things like we can buy less and we try to be responsible in terms of like reusing, everyday items. And, we have our tin cups and we do these and that and the other. But man, that's a lot of waste. There's so much waste and how fast fashion happens and people are just driven to buy things. So there's a component there of brands urging people and how they want you to buy things. There are companies that urge you to buy things and make things cheaply, and the whole underbelly of it all, which is, they want you to buy more and they don't want you to fix anything. And, it's just a really eye-opening thing to consider, and maybe it'll help you understand, your consumer purchases and maybe, help you curb some of that. But some of the stuff in here, I will say, is like, once you return consumer goods, like bath lotion or something, bath stuff, like you can't just return it and have the people turn around and resell it or use it. I mean, it's been tainted. You don't know if there's stuff in it, so you have to throw it out. You know what I mean? And there are people that don't understand that is part of that whole situation. I would much rather have, like, if you're not 100% guaranteed by it, like, keep it and we'll give you something else. Like I would hate to have that stuff thrown out, but it is what it is. Fascinating look. By now it's streaming on Netflix. Another great documentary we saw on Netflix, because it was a Netflix and chill week for us, is Martha Stewart. Dave. Martha Stewart covers just her career is so long. She's got decades of being in the public spotlight, of becoming the very first, like, if you want to use the term, girl boss. She really was. She's one of the first multi-billionaires of her own company, being a female, having her own brand, and then having that brand ripped away because of this insider trading scandal that happened in the late 90s. And then, of course, her resurgence in terms of the comedy roast and hooking up with Snoop Dogg and reinventing herself for a new generation.
And that's it. She just continues to reinvent herself. She's terrific. I see her almost on a weekly basis doing something. And her friendship, the contrast between her and Snoop Dogg is just absolutely fantastic.
I think that a lot of her wisdom and her drive, they found that kinship together with Snoop Dogg. And I feel that her marketing rubbed off on him, and he became a stronger brand as a result. And you can see him. He's just reached out to everything. He's hosting game shows. He's on TV. He's selling things. He's got his own brand.
I mean, look what he did this past summer with the Olympics. The Summer Olympics. I mean, it was all about Snoop Dogg, and that helped boost the ratings for NBC.
100%. I think, people like him, and I think people like Martha too. And it's just one of those things. If you don't know about how she came up, it is a fascinating look at her early part of the career, and her entire career for that matter. But just the drive and how she strives for greatness, I think, is something to be admired. And regardless of whether you think she was involved in this insider trading thing, hey, look, she paid her price. It was not easy for her. But I can say that I respect,
think because it was Martha Stewart, I think it was a bit harsh.
Oh, I do. I do too.
I think they made an example out of her, and it is what it is. But she did her time.
and I think it's a great watch. So please check out Martha. It's an easy watch too on Netflix. So please certainly check that out. I think it's fascinating, and she is definitely a pop icon as it stands to this day. And I think that wraps up pretty much everything. Oh, I got one more thing. I saw Mickey and Minnie's Christmas Carols on Disney Plus. This is a stop motion animated TV series, and I will say they're just kind of mini shows where they take the Christmas carols everyone knows and loves. It's maybe 5-6 episodes, and put the stop motion animation to it. Of course, Mickey, Minnie, and the whole gang bring the spirit of the holidays alive at Hot Dog Hills with popular carols, and they're fun for the whole family. Check it out. Of course, the original voice cast is all there. Bill Farmer, Tony Anselmo, who've been on the show. Brett Iwan is there. Minnie from Caitlin Bob Rock is the new voice of Minnie, and I think it's done very well. So it's like Christmas ornaments come to life, which is my tree, Dave. Dave, I have a Disney Christmas tree. They're full of Disney Hallmark ornaments, and it's literally that. And
awesome.
So please check that out. That's what we've been streaming this week. What have you been doing? Let us know. And
that was a lot.
It's a lot. Well, it makes up for the lack of news this week. So let us know in the show notes or leave us that voicemail, and we'll check them out in an upcoming episode.
Skull Rock Podcast. This week in Disney and pop culture.
All right, Dave. Moana 2 slams number one at the box office. $54 million. On Friday, the returns of Wicked, but holy smokes, what a big box office. Moana 2 tops biggest Thanksgiving ever, $250 million to $220 million. Holy mackerel. That's a lot. Dave.
No, I think it's a blowout weekend. I think they needed this. Again, obviously the film is resonating with audiences, or at least it's resonating for the holiday weekend. Because when I went to my local theater to see Wicked and then Gladiator 2, I mean, it was packed with families with little kids going to see Moana.
Well, I mean, that's two musicals back to back there. Moana 2 was set to hit those records of $220 million. It's slated to be the biggest 5-day debut in history, besting the Super Mario Brothers movie at $204, as well as becoming the top Thanksgiving opening earner of all time, beating Frozen at 93.6 and Frozen 2 at 125. That's huge. That is absolutely huge. I don't know what the staying power will be. Dave, we'll find out when, you review it and I review it. But of course, the Moana 2 is in there, and Universal's Wicked, and Paramount's Gladiator 2. The 5-day revenue will come north of $425 million, an unparalleled post-pandemic victory for the domestic box office. That is big news. Wicked alone is set to gross $118.4 million over the 5 days, and that's good. Gladiator 2, perched for third place, will carve up a pleasing $45 million over a 5-day period. Reaching $400 million globally. And I know maybe Gladiator 2 is not the movie Gladiator 1 was, but it definitely is counter programming to all the musicals and animation that's going on.
Absolutely. There's always something for everybody at the box office this time of year.
Yeah. For sure.
And by the way, I think it's important to note there was this news story that came across a week ago. The Animation Guild reaches a tentative deal with studios, so there's not going to be an animation strike. Which, thank God, I don't think this town needs any more strikes.
Yeah, very good.
The negotiations with Hollywood studios and streamers, which stalled over AI, was framed as a do or die moment for union members. So they've at least been able to reach a tentative agreement that puts in AI language about the studios giving notification and consultation provisions according to the union. So I just wanted to mention that, Aljon, because the last thing this town needed was another strike.
No, thank you for that note. You did send me that, and I neglected to put it on here. But, it goes back to what I was talking about last week with this whole Otoy AI assisted. Yeah. I hate to say AI assisted, because William Shatner was there to.
You know what it is? The way to phrase this is that you've got filmmakers and artisans using AI tools to make the craft better.
Yes.
That's what it boils down to.
100%. And I feel that, we've seen this type of technology being used, since, as Dave mentioned, in the late 90s. And of course, as recently as the de-aging processes that Marvel Studios used for Nick Fury, Samuel L. Jackson, and bringing other characters back to life, right or wrong. We had Star Wars, right? We had Rogue One, where Peter Cushing's likeness was used to bring back the old Imperial commander from Star Wars back from 1977 in Rogue One, and Princess Leia.
You know what, Aljon? So the possibilities for filmmakers and storytelling are endless with these new tools, right? And again, you have to put them in the hands of the storytellers, the filmmakers, not some daddy warbucks up in the C-suite who, is going to try and cut out all the players and, have AI make a movie for them. That's not going to happen anytime soon. That's for sure. This is about the artists, the craftsmen, the filmmakers using AI tools to tell better stories and to do stories that might not have been possible just a few years ago.
So, talking about the tools, I just want to hit on this for a second. Do you feel like even if the actors give permission and everything, that we'll be seeing maybe more of these type of things where they'll be reprising their roles and maybe doing stuff that makes them look younger, perhaps? We'll be seeing a lot more of that.
Absolutely. Why not? How many movies have you seen over the years where there's a flashback to, an earlier time in a person's life, where you see some, defining moment and then they pop forward in time. Well, now you're going to be able to do those in a much more convincing way using some of this AI technology.
If you get the permission from the estate or the people, I'm sure they'll be able to maybe bring back some people as well. I mean, they have already done
absolutely.
that.
So. They did it, as you mentioned, in the Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
That to me is completely appropriate as long as the right people are involved and giving the appropriate permissions.
Yeah.
So if an actor's estate, his family says, yes, revive that character that our father played, and he's no longer here, but he would love to be part of this, and that they're compensated for it, but to me, it can't just be the Wild West where people are just doing things without asking permission or whatnot,
That's all great. And, I appreciate that. And I think for us that remember those characters, I think it's a wowing moment. It's a great moment in time, but I'm not opposed to having these characters, these classic characters recast, because once again, it's all about stories, and telling good stories. And if, you want to have Han, Luke, and Leia come back and have new stories and adventures told with them, I'm not opposed to bringing back new recasting characters, because I think it's fine. It has to be done at some point. You can't just go back to the well and use these, 40 years from now. Are we still going to be seeing Luke Skywalker look like Mark Hamill back in 1977? Yeah. We can do it. Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Exactly.
But, it should serve the story purpose. So for sure, I can't wait to hear more about what happens there. I'm glad the animators are not going on strike for sure.
Obituary roll call.
All right, Dave, in this week's passing, we have here Silva Pinal, the iconic Mexican actress and Louis Brunel Muse, dies at the age of 93. I hope I said her name properly. She starred in The King of the Neighborhood, Viridiana, Did I say that right? Viridiana. And the Exterminating Angel, and created a long-running Mujer, Casos de la Vida Real. Dave, are you familiar with Silva's work?
She was just, I'm not that familiar with her career, but she was part of a Mexican dynasty, the Penal dynasty, as it was referred to. Because of, her third husband was pop singer Enrique Guzman. And then, her two children included musician Alejandra Guzman, a Latin Grammy-winning artist who sold over 30 million albums. Wow. I mean, for crying out loud, so... she's from an entertainment family, but virtually well known in Mexico and Latin America.
Wow, she's got over 100 acting credits to her name, so rest in peace.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, how about this? Jim Abrahams from Airplane, Naked Gun, and Hot Shots, Master of Mirth, dies at the age of 80.
Yeah.
Wow. Boyhood friends Jerry and David Zucker got their start with the Kentucky Fried Movie. They also were behind Top Secret and Ruthless People. I mean, this is one of the kings of comedy, writing in the early and mid 80s, or late 70s rather. And that's a lot of really good stuff. Kentucky Fried Movie is a classic. And then he also...
It really was. Yeah. It was hilarious, and it was one of those films that kind of kicked off those zany comedy films that came out in the late 70s and into the 80s.
Oh, 100%. Those movies are great, and I've seen so many of them in the theaters growing up, from Ruthless People to Top Secret to Animal House. Kentucky Fried Movies really, with John Landis, was a prelude to Animal House. And Top Secret with a young Val Kilmer. This is from the Hollywood Reporter. This is all great stuff. And Ruthless People it's still a great classic. If you need to check out and laugh, Bette Midler, Danny DeVito, and Ruthless People is indeed a classic. So, wow, what a great career! You will be missed. Yeah. And Earl Holliman, actor on Policewoman, dies at the age of 96. You may know him from his roles in Twilight Zone, The Rainmaker, Giant, and Sons of Katie Elder. Dave, once again, one of these actors that you may not know the name, but he just pops up everywhere.
He's got a familiar face. He's a great character actor. I remember him from the Policewoman series because that was a long running series. But he was in Gunfight at the OK Corral with Burt Lancaster. Forbidden Planet, the son, as you mentioned, the Sons of Katie Elder, one of the first Twilight Zone episodes. I mean, just really terrific series. The Policewoman series aired from 74 to 78, and then lived on for a long time in reruns. Oh yeah. It was just one of those really terrific police procedurals of the time.
Yeah, it's a great show, and once again, just one of those great actors that always had work. Because he had a very chiseled look. I mean, you had the most masculine jawline, right? The big chin.
Yeah, no, I mean, he always played tough guys too. Yeah. He was in Gunsmoke, Cannon, Bonanza, The Fugitive, Dr. Kildare, The $6 Million Man, Murder, She Wrote. I mean, just goes on. Films, he was in The Last Train from Gun Hill, Summer and Smoke, The Power, The Biscuit Eater, Bad City Blues, The Perfect Tenant. Really incredible,
Yeah, absolutely. Dave, that just wraps up the obituary roll call for this week. And once again, great actors, and you will be missed, but you leave behind just a great amount of work, great body of work for us to check out. Well, right now, let's sit back and relax for part one of our look of the career of Imagineer, amazing artist, Eric Robson. Check it out right here on Skull Rock Podcast.
Let's do it.
Skull Rock Podcast. Interview time.
Well, Aljon, we got another fantastic guest. This time it's Eric Robison, who is an Imagineer and an incredible artist. I'm a fan of his artwork. And Eric, I want to welcome you to the Skull Rock Podcast.
Aloha, Skull Rock Podcast.
Yes, and so our listeners know you live in Honolulu, Hawaii, and we're doing our interview via Zoom here. But Eric, the question I always ask our guests is, how did it start for you? Where did you, when did you realize you wanted to be an artist?
Yeah, the earliest recollection I have is the supermarket when I was a little boy. My mom would shop throughout the market, and she would drop me off at the bakery to watch the cake decorators through the window. And it was fascinating to me as a little boy. And then, of course, when they see a little kid watching, they come out and put icing on your finger, and it's a beautiful experience. So I just loved to watch the bakers, and I wanted to be a baker, So that was my very first kind of thrill about seeing color and thick impasto kind of medium. And if you look at my paintings today, Dave, they kind of look like decorated cakes if you think about it. They're pretty thick, the thick acrylic. And
something that, Eric, that's something I was just about to bring up. When I look at some of the paintings you've done, in fact, you sent me a video that you were painting to a Green Day song. And I just thought it was absolutely fantastic, but you can really see the thick paint that's going on, just out of the tube being thrown against the canvas and all of that. Do you really link that back to that experience as a child and seeing the bakers?
Believe it or not, I really do link it back to that, even though I was like, 5-year-old kid. But I mean, if you analyze it psychologically, I was watching that thick, colorful medium being squirted out through a cone onto a cake, right?
Yeah.
And it must have impressed me, because if you flash forward, 28 years, that's what I became in a weird way, don't you think? I mean,
I certainly make that link between your paintings and this story that you're just telling. I mean, I think it's very fascinating. So it really made an impression on you as a small child.
Yeah, evidently. My mom was a creative person. She was a model and an actress and a writer and a housewife painter, quote unquote. And so she was a creative person, the only creative person in the family, except I have a couple brothers that could do music. But I got the juices from her. However, I never took any art until I was 25 years old. I went to Pasadena City College. I took an art class, but predominantly art center in my mid-20s.
Okay, so we got to step back here for a second, because you had that impression with the bakery, with the bakers, and as you grew up, got into high school, were you thinking of doing art? Were you doing painting on your own? What was going on?
I really wanted to learn to draw and paint in high school. I was a football player, an athlete, and it's back then in the 70s. If you were an artist, you normally weren't like a sporting person. I mean, there's a weird attachment to different,
different cliques in high school,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So you weren't going to be a football player and an artist. It was one or the other, right? Yeah.
Makes sense to anybody. It's like, what are you doing that for, Eric? What are you doing in art class? However, I did join the art class my senior year with my best friend, and he did it as a joke. I did it because I wanted to learn to draw and paint. But what happened is the teacher was teaching crafty stuff like macrame and weaving ropes and things. And I was like, man, this is not what I thought we were going to do art, And for me, that stuff wasn't arts, that was crafts. So I wanted to get out of the class. And so the teacher sent me out of the class to the vice principal's office. And he said, Eric, what are you doing here? I said, well, I thought I was going to an art class. What? Long story short, Dave. He said, I tell you what, why don't you spend every art period in my office the rest of the year and draw me a picture every day? And I said, so I'm going to sit in the vice principal's office every day? And he goes, yeah. I'm a fair man. Don't worry about it. Better than weaving dolls and macrame. And I said, okay. So the guy got free drawings from me, every day for about 2 months. And then he said, okay, you don't have to do this anymore. You just go to the library and hang out with your friends the rest of the year. And that was kind of an introduction to, I was decent at it because somebody liked my drawings, but still I did not pursue it. It was just a lark in high school kind of thing,
So you graduate high school. And by the way, where did you grow up? In Hawaii?
San Marino.
Oh, in San Marino. Okay. So you graduate high school, and what did you decide to go to college for?
Yeah, I went to Pasadena City College, which was up the street, a couple miles. I wanted to be an architect very badly. And I took an architecture class in Pasadena City College, along with general ed stuff. And the first day of the class, the teacher says, if you want to be an architect, you're going to hate it because you got to go to get 2 degrees and you got to get a license. And if you get that, if you're lucky enough, blah, blah, blah. And he's super negative, I'd forget that. I'm not going to do. He basically told the kids, don't do it.
Wow.
So bizarre. I tell you, it's bizarre. I came home and told my dad, I said, well, I guess sounds like a hard thing to do. I don't think we're going to do it. So I just took general ed. My dad said, get a business degree. In the old days, a creative degree was frowned upon kind of, or not, particularly promoted, So I just got general ed stuff, took a night class in figure drawing, PCC, just for myself. And I loved it, but I still didn't pursue it. Went to Cal State Long Beach, finished up at UC Irvine. So you 5 years to get an economics degree total from PCC to Irvine. So I got a BS in economics, 1982.
And what were you going to do with that?
Dude, well, that's a longer story.
We you know what? We've got time. I'm fascinated by this because but hold on a second, Eric. Most of the guests that we've had on the podcast over the years have, known as kids that they were going to go into animation or art in some way, shape, or form. So the fact that you graduated from college with a degree in economics and it only taken a couple of classes here and there, I'm fascinated. So I want to hear this whole story.
Yeah, you won't believe what happened. Okay, so I have a degree. My senior year, UC Irvine. My thesis is on the ramifications of women in the workforce. Back then in 1982, that was a big subject. And so I wrote my term paper to graduate, which was about, 18 pages long. And I illustrated the cover. I drew the cover. And so I got the week before graduation, get the paper back, and I got a D on the paper, but an A+ next to it. And she goes, come see me. I go into the dean's office and she goes, you're not a writer and you're not an economist, but who did this cover? And I said, I just doodled the cover to get some extra points. And she goes, why aren't you in art school? So the economics dean was telling me, you just wasted your entire life. You should quit right now and just go to art school. So I said, wow, thanks a lot. Really? She goes, yeah, it's really beautiful. And I was like, God damn it, you're kidding me. Anyway, so I got the economics degree. Listen to this. I go to the counselor to schedule interviews. And she says to me, IBM up in Los Angeles wants to set a meeting with you. They're very impressed with you. And I was like, IBM wants to hire me? And they said, yes, they do. Here's the meeting time. Here's the building. Go buy yourself a suit and tie and get up there. Dave, unbelievable. I drive all the way up here in a suit and tie, go to downtown Los Angeles, go up 14 floors to the IBM testing center. The lady says, Eric, we're so happy you're here. Glad to see you. She hands me like a 5-page test. She goes, go into the little booth and take this test. And when you come out, we're going to score you and we'll find out who you can interview with. I said, what am I doing here? I can't believe this. I got like average grades, So I guess I said, maybe I'm pretty good at economics after all. I go in the booth, I open the test up, and it's calculus. And I'm like, what is this calculus? What the hell, you know? And so I have no idea what, I just scribble a bunch of answers, you know? I come out, I hand her the thing, and she looks through it. She flips through it. She goes, okay, I think we have a problem here. I said, yeah, we got a problem here. I said, I don't even know what I'm doing here. And she goes, aren't you Eric Robinson? And you have a 5.0 grade point average from UC Irvine? And I said, no, I'm Eric Robison, and I have a 2.8 GPA.
That's awesome.
He goes, we are so sorry. We spelled your name. It's the wrong name. It's the wrong Eric. I said, you kidding me, man? I bought this suit and everything, you know. Unbelievable. So that was my first introduction to the business world. And also, of course, you know, people spelling my name wrong. But anyway.
So I was going to ask you that. You know, normally there's an N after the I, right? So it's Robinson.
Yeah, like Robinson.
Yeah, but you're Robison.
Robison, yes, correct.
Robison.
Yeah. So it's, I mean, all my life people spell it wrong. So it's, but that was a very important moment to spell it wrong, you know? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So then what happened?
So obviously, I couldn't get a job in economics or business because I wasn't built that way. And I felt it, I knew it, but I had a Sunday school teacher that was a businessman. He had a company up in El Monte, up by Pasadena, and he hired me. He says, we're going to take care of you. We're going to give you, this is your salary. And we're going to introduce you to sales. We think you'd be a good salesman. You're young, and you can learn. So I said, oh, I need to get some job. By the way, I got married 2 weeks after I graduated, which was stupid. But anyway, I did that. So I needed a job badly, right? And first day on the job, the head sales guy takes me out on a sales lunch call, just like in the old days when the salesmen take people out to lunch.
It's like the two martini lunch, huh?
Yeah, but here I am, 23 years old, in a new suit still, and I can't sell anything, Dave. I tried to sell Christmas trees when I was a teenager. I was giving them away. Anyway, I can't sell anything. I'm not a salesman. So the head salesman pulls out some Dodger tickets and hands them to the potential client. He says, Eric and I would like to have you to have these tickets tonight to the Dodger game, third base, great seats. And the guy pushes them back, the tickets, and says, you can't buy me. I don't like this kind of sales tactic. No, thank you. And he leaves the lunch.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, this job. I don't want to do this. This is horrible. So the guy laughs. He goes, it's okay, Eric. This happens sometimes. I said, well, I'm not doing this. So I go back to the office and I tell my boss, I said, you know what, sir, I don't think I belong here. And he goes, tell you what, your mom and dad said you can draw. Do you want to design our packages for us? And I said, yeah, I can do that. And so I started designing their package. It was a packaging company. So I designed their packaging, bottles, STP bottles, Wynn's Oil, Farmer's Coffee, wholesale bottles. And they loved my designs. So weird.
And where's that coming from? Is that just intuitive for you? Because you didn't have any formal training.
No, but I saw their bottles and I was like, wow, they're super conservative. I mean, don't you want a little more flash to them? And I wasn't drawing very well, Dave, but I knew how to design So here's what I did. So I took a night class in marker sketching up at Art Center.
Okay.
And I applied that knowledge every week I went. I'd come back to the office and I started using markers now and pastels and chalks and Prisma pencils on Canson paper. And my boss was like, holy shit, you're getting really good. I said, yeah, I'm taking a night class up at Art Center in Pasadena. And he said, wow, you turned out to be a great asset to the company. You're designing all of our packages now. So I became that all of a sudden. So I went from economics to a packaging designer,
That is just, I have to say, Eric, this is this is the most roundabout way of anybody we've interviewed on our podcast. It's the most roundabout way that you've gotten to be an artist. So, I mean, it's just absolutely amazing. And it means that there's hope for people out there who are listening, because you don't have to have formal training. You know,
No.
I know a number of people who never had formal art training who became really fantastic artists.
Yeah, and the world will find where you're supposed to go sooner or later, and it won't keep you from getting it.
Yeah.
And so, it's like a Paulo Coelho story, the world conspires to help you get what you really want in life. And so I guess I really, really wanted it because everything kept steering me in the direction of some art form, right? So after that, my art center teacher started saying, Eric, you should go here full time. You could probably get a scholarship. And I went, oh, I can't afford it, blah, blah, blah. And he says, you should do it. I'm telling you, I've seen worse talent come through this place and make it successful. So I took another semester, and my teacher was the Jack Linney, I think his name was. He's the guy that painted the Jaws poster.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he was doing one sheet art.
Yeah, but he was teaching us how to draw it wasn't figure drawing, it was figure drawing for advertising. So it was like, here's the jaw box, here's the eye sockets, here's where stuff goes, and marker sketching with that. So great class, great teacher, super inspiring. So I applied to the school, and I got accepted into the transportation industrial design major.
Wow.
And then I started that next semester. And then my boss was nice enough to keep me on a part-time payment while I was going to school, because he really believed in me, kind of thing. He was a very sweet man to do that. So I wasn't going to starve. And then I got a full scholarship at Art Center. So the guy was right. I got 3 scholarships from Chrysler, Ford, and Chrysler, Ford, and
GM.
GM, of course, GM.
Yeah.
GM had the most money too. So I was on full scholarship, and it was a pretty freaking great experience. It was amazing.
But by the way, just a tidbit of a fact for you: the head of the industrial design program at Art Center back in the 1930s was Kem Weber.
Oh wow, 1930s.
Yeah, Kem Weber. Yeah, just a little factoid.
That school changed my life 100%. And you've heard my story right now, jumping from a left brain to a right brain place. And wow, did I feel at home? I felt like I was at Hogwarts. I was going to learn all the magic tricks. There were people of my kind. I always say Art Center was Hogwarts, and Imagineering was like Santa's workshop. The 2 best places in the world that a kid could ever want to go to. I freaking landed both of them. It was a great time.
So you finish out Art Center while you're still doing the packaging design?
Well, what happened was I got halfway through Art Center. I caught a pneumonia, and I thought I was going to die. It was really bad. So I dropped out for a semester, and I won a internship at Mattel Toys.
Oh, nice.
In Hawthorne.
Yeah, El Segundo Hawthorne area, right?
Yeah. So I was in the boy toy division as an intern, and it was fantastic education outside of school for me. I mean, not only to learn to design toys, but I was sitting next to an intern from MIT. And so here I was, an Art Center designer artist, sitting next to a genius MIT guy that taught me all this stuff that I wasn't getting in school. And we were just blowing people away. Our office was in the coffee break room. So everyone come in and talk to the interns. And it was a great 4 months of my life. I really loved it. And so when I was there, I designed the Barbie Corvette. I designed Skeletor and He-Man sets. And they were developing photosensory technology then for toys. So they're shooting photons at sensors on toys, and the toys were reacting. So I thought this is fantastic stuff. I mean, I tell you, it was like the FBI, man. There's working on stuff behind the scenes, Great.
Did when you did the internship, did it bubble up into anything, or did you just do the 4 months? It was a summer gig.
They offered to not even let me go back and graduate. They just said, you can just stay here. You got a job, kid. I mean, if you want to stay.
And what did you want to do?
I had to graduate. After all that work I did, I wasn't going to get the full banana, So I said, I'll tell you what, let me go back and graduate, and I'll consider you for employment. And they said, anytime, come back anytime. Wherever you go, even somewhere after, always come back to us because we want you. So super flattering. And I immediately had job security, which made everybody happy in my family. If I couldn't find anything at the end of the road, they were always going to be there. So my senior year, I got to pick a senior project, and I used the light sensory technology for my senior project in the point of lasers rather than rather than light itself.
Right.
So I developed a dark ride called Laser Track that you ride in a pod through different environments and shoot your laser at monsters and creatures that were biomechanical. And these biomechanical creatures they were fiber optic monsters, and it was really super fun to do. And I painted with gouache the entire storyboarding of the whole ride. And I built a model, the whole deal. So it was a huge project for me. And that's what made Disney find me. Disney basically saw that project and they wanted to hire me. I suppose it was because it was a dark ride,
Yeah, but just step back for a second, because you worked on that, and how did Disney see that?
So Disney was walking down the hallway at Art Center looking indoors. It was kind of weird. And the guy was really casual too. So he came into my classroom and he asked the teacher, he pointed to the gouache storyboards. And he says, who did this? And the teacher said, it's Eric Robison. He's over there. The guy came over, gave me a business card. He said, I'm from Disney Imagineering. Would you be interested in coming to work for us? And Dave, guess what I said?
No.
I said no.
Why did you say no?
He goes, really? I said, yeah. I said no because I didn't want to know how they did the magic behind the scenes of Disneyland, because it was so fun to not know. When you see the ghosts in the Haunted Mansion, I don't want to know how that works. And
yeah, because once you know, you can't unknow it, and it blows the illusion because you know how it works.
I didn't want to spend the rest of my life having that spoiled. And so he says, well, you know what? Keep the card. I'll come back in a few weeks on your graduation day.
Do you remember who it was?
No, I don't remember.
Oh, okay.
I remember my classmate Dave Minichello got hired through his friend Tom Morris at Imagineering. And so he mentioned it to me that he was going to go there. But I said, I don't really want to go there. So I went home, I told my mom, and she goes, okay, honey, sit down, let me talk to you. She goes, I don't think you know what you're getting into by going to Detroit in the freezing cold winters and working on cars. Which is
that what you were thinking of doing? Was going to Detroit to work for one of the big three?
I got an offer at BMW in Germany too. So I was like, it's so romantic to work. I thought it was going to be so cool to work on cars. But I had 3 friends the semester before me that got hired and they said, Eric, we're not even designing cars. We're doing door handles and hubcaps and stuff like that, and mirrors. And I said, oh, wow. And they said, yeah, so if you get a better offer. So anyway, long story short, my mom said, you're crazy. You should do it because it's an honor to be one of the people behind the scenes at Imagineering. You're gonna be designing those parks that make people go, wow. I mean, that will be an honor for you. You're thinking it the wrong way. And I said, yeah, I guess it would be cool to create that stuff. And she goes, you should definitely stay in California, work for Disney, and I mean, everything's good about it. The weather right down to the salary, right? So thought about it for 2 seconds more. So the guy came back to school and he said, Eric, why don't you come in and talk to us? Bring your portfolio in. And I said, okay, I'll at least come in and talk to you. So at least they got me in there. So I had 3 portfolios. I had all robots, I had product design, and I had transportation design. And it was a heavy load to bring into Glendale, 1401 Flower Street.
Right, because this is what pre-computers and pre having, your own website that you could just give them the link to, right?
Yeah, I had 3 giant portfolios. It's probably 30 pounds worth of artwork. I brought all of it, Dave. I wanted to impress them. I worked hard for 3 years. So I'm sitting in the lobby of 1401, and I was exhausted because I was just tired of school. I was wiped out. I worked very hard. I look across the room on the wall, and there's a painting. I tell you, it was very emotional. It was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And it was the Tokyo Disneyland concept painting by Herb Ryman. And I just about cried. I couldn't believe how beautiful it was. And I said, whoever did that, that's what I want to do. And I want to be just like that person. And I looked at the little name on the right, and it was Herbert Ryman. And I went, holy shit, if that's a job, that's what I want to be. So I went into Michael Morris's office, showed him my portfolio. I opened 2 pages, and he closed it. And he goes, when do you want to start? And I went, dude, you didn't see I have 3 portfolios. I worked so hard. He goes, I don't need to see anything else. When do you want to start? And I said, well, I haven't really decided yet. And he goes, why don't you, take a vacation for a week or 2 and come back and call me? Because you're just getting out of school and you're probably wiped out. And so I said, okay, he's a really nice guy. Michael Morris, remember that name. I don't know where he is now. So I left, and that painting was in my head. That Herbie painting was in my head. And I called him back, and I said, wow, I think I'd like to work there after all. And he goes, okay, we're going to send you a letter. 3 days later, I got a letter that was 3 times the salary of Detroit, anybody in Detroit.
Yeah.
And the benefits were amazing, and it was Imagineering. And I was like, holy shit, Mom, you were right. Look at this. I showed her the letter. She goes, yeah, you made the right decision. Your life is going to be better.
But by the way, I do want to mention to our listeners, when you said 1401, I want our listeners to know 1401, for anybody who's worked at Disney, that's the main entrance into the Imagineering facility in Glendale, California. That's the address, the street address. And some people outside of the berm, so to speak, Eric, outside of us, people who've worked at the company, when they hear 1401, they're like, what's 1401?
Yeah, sorry. I'm talking to you like an insider.
No. And I part of my job as the interviewer is to just pause occasionally and let our listeners in on some of these things,
Yeah.
So did you take a couple weeks off before you started?
I did. I went to Hawaii, ironically. I went to Kauai for a week, and I just laid on the sand, and oh my God, felt so good. And I just did nothing but eat and drink a beer, and I came back. I was really ready to go. I bought new clothes. I bought a new car, and I was just ready to be an adult, basically.
And when you started, and I'm almost wondering if, let me just go on a little bit longer, because we're going to bump up against time, and I want to find a nice break point. But when your first day, what do you remember about your first day starting at Imagineering?
My first day was at the Disney Studios, the orientation meeting with Michael Eisner and Frank Wells, talking on the TV set as welcome to our company. My name is Michael Eisner. I'm Frank Wells. And I was like, wow, these guys are awesome. Look at these 2 guys. They were like rock stars. To see a double corporate leadership for me was pretty stunning, and then the next 3 days I had to go down to Disneyland and put a character costume on, walk around the park. It was Disney Way 1. Remember that?
Yes, I have a photo of myself. I was Winnie the Pooh for about 15 minutes out in part of Tomorrowland.
I was Brer Bear.
There you go.
I wanted to be Goofy because he was my favorite, but I was Brer Bear. And wow, it was the middle. It was, early fall. It was hot, man, hot in those costumes. I had a lot of respect for those people. A lot of respect.
Yeah, I mean, just so our listeners can appreciate it, when we did that on Disney Way 1, we actually had to get into like gym shorts and a T-shirt.
Yeah.
You changed out of your clothes in a locker room and put on these skimpy little gym shorts and a white T-shirt and the hair it was sort of like a hairnet almost. Well, not a hairnet, but
Doctor's cap.
Yeah, like a surgeon's cap. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a wild 3 days. And so, by the way, I didn't go into Imagineering proper. I didn't go to 1401 my first time. My first assignment was down at SQS, Show Quality Standards trailer at Disneyland behind Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And by the way, those trailers are still there.
Yeah, that's where I started. I didn't.
Yeah, they're like permanent trailers.
Oh, well, they used to be. They were very trailery when I was there. So that was my first assignment. Was not even with the big guns up there. It was down there.
So what did you have to do down there?
So my first day there, absolutely couldn't believe that this was my job. I walked in there. Bob Kurzweil was my boss. There was another young guy there that just got hired. And Bob says to Joe, jump on the bicycles and take Eric around, back of park, and show him where the sign shop is, show him where the costumes are, show him where they build the floats, show him all the ropes. And God, man, what an impression. When you're a little kid growing up in Southern California, you go to Disneyland, and then you grow up and you're on a bicycle cruising around the perimeter under the monorail track, and it's your job. That was so freaking fun. I'll never forget that day. It was a fantastic moment.
Again, for our listeners, when you go backstage at Disneyland and it's all around the entire perimeter of the park, there's like a whole city buzzing around back there. There's a mill, and there's the train the train building where the trains go in for maintenance, and the sign shop, as you mentioned, and landscaping, and there's just so many different groups out there.
I had no idea, and most people don't have any idea what goes on behind the scenes. Just fantastic, all levels of talent in all different mediums, buzzing around like bees back there. And I just loved watching the sign painters, good old guys, they've been there forever. And I was like, wow, I'm on a bicycle too. This is the freaking greatest job. So anyway, that was the first morning. And then my boss goes, tell you what, Eric, your job is to go into the park 3 times a day with a notepad. If you see bubble gum on a rock at Thunder Ranch, you write it down. If you see some paint chipped somewhere, write it down. Location. So basically, take care of the park, babysit it, and make sure there's no things that are of quality standard. You're a show quality standard person, right? That's what your job is. And then when you come back in the afternoons from 3 to 5, I want you to do some design work. And that my very first design project, which this is hilarious, was a popcorn cart for Tomorrowland. And he said, I want you to design a popcorn cart for Tomorrowland, and we're going to take it up to Imagineering 1401 because there's a Disneyland meeting next week. And I want you to experience what it's like to be in a meeting and show your design. And that's my first assignment.
And when you took that assignment on, did you come up with multiple concepts? Did you kind of sort of focus on one, or did you show 5 or 6?
Okay, well, I had after the training I went through, right out of school, there's 2 things crossing your mind. You want to be noticed, and you want to be a success, and you also want to give a lot of options. So when I was a student, I always did what the instructor asked for, but I always did what I wanted to do too. Mm-hmm. I put them both on the wall, and more times than not, and this still happens in my my career today, more times than not that I'm so great at the design, but maybe because my passion's into the one that I really want to do, that one gets picked. And so I took this as a normal design project. So I did a couple of conservative little popcorn carts that you'd see already, but then I did one that you won't believe. And it turned out to be a huge mistake.
Why?
Because I designed a droid walker that would walk around Tomorrowland and pop popcorn.
And what'd they say?
It's called the Mega Popper 5000. Okay, so the concept was, it was this Star Wars looking walker, and it had hemispherical domes flanked on each side. And those domes popped popcorn while it walked. And then we'd walk around with a spaceman, and he'd stop, the walker would squat down to eye level, and the spaceman would serve up the popcorn to the guests. I thought it was genius because it's 100% themed. It's an exciting kind of tactile experience. And what kid doesn't want to see a walker walking around Tomorrowland and then pop popcorn for you? You know, I thought it was amazing. But we took it up to Imagineering and put it on the wall up there. And that's when I first met Marty Sklar. And that changed my life in another direction.
What did Marty say about it?
Okay, well, I'm standing in the back, Dave, in the front row of them. It's a Disneyland meeting, so Marty's there. John Hench is there. What's that guy's name? Oh, shoot.
Claude Coates or
Claude Coates. He was up there. He wasn't in the meeting, but yeah. Randy Bright was there, who was quite a force of nature. They're all in the front row. They're looking, and I see my rendering up there. It's Canson marker, chalk, and pencil. Very beautiful, flashy rendering. Everybody else had doodles and nice stuff, but man, mine was like really.
Yours popped.
It popped, dude. It was really exciting. I was super excited, and I see Marty pointing at it. And my boss Bob goes, "That's Marty Sklar. He's the president of the company. He's pointing at your rendering." I'm like, "Holy shit! My first project. I'm gonna be like, I scored, you know." And the meeting finally officially starts. And Marty points at my thing right away, and my heart's beating. Like, man, I can't believe I can't wait to tell my wife, you know. And he goes, "Who did this one?" And my boss Bob goes, "Oh, that's Eric from SQS. He's just brand new this week." And he turns around, and Marty turns around. He goes, "Nice to meet you, Eric. Welcome to Imagineering. Okay, we're never gonna make your idea."
and you know what though, when Marty said something like that, he said it in a warm, slight smile on his face.
No.
Right?
He says, "We're never going to make it. Let me tell you why. This is going to cost $2 million. It's a popcorn cart. Okay, it's out of scale, and the liability of killing people through Tomorrowland as it walks around is probably not a good idea. And then the lawsuits, our lawyers are going to be up their asses in lawsuits because you're going to kill everybody that wants." He said, "So out of scale, out of budget, and dangerous. So welcome to Imagineering." I was humiliated. Oh my God, so embarrassed.
Oh yeah, but you also had your regular ones, right?
Yeah, but they didn't shine. They didn't even get looked at. So I felt like a huge failure. And I was really embarrassed, and I said, maybe I'm not gonna have this job anymore. Maybe I'm gonna lose it because that's I was really young, you know, and I was really sensitive about it. I was like, I think I just effed up, you know. So I go back to my office, and I was up there sulking, and I'm kind of like shit. And Bob comes up, my boss, and he has a note in his hand. And he says, "How you doing, kid?" I said, "Not great." He hands me the note, and he says, "Read the note." I said, "Nah, I know I screwed up." He says, "Read it." I undo the note, and it's in red Sharpie from Marty Sklar. And it said, "Bob, put that kid on Tokyo Star Tours. He can do robots. He's perfect for it." Marty. Holy shit.
That's awesome. That's
awesome. A huge failure to like, what? You know?
Yeah. But you know something, I think this is pretty much a good place for us to kind of stop. But before we do, I want to say that, you know, when you're just starting out at the studio, it takes a little bit to build up that thick skin of having stuff rejected.
Yeah.
Right? Doesn't it? You
Yeah,
know, but you're better for it in the long run.
And you have to learn that, though.
Yes, you really do.
You can't learn it by someone saying it. You got to go through the bumps, and it sucks. But
you got to run the gauntlet.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah.
And then you have to accept it, and you finally have to be mature enough to don't look at this like yourself. Don't look at this with your mind. Look at this from their minds, looking at your stuff. And you just really have to learn that reversal. You have to, you know, and not all your great ideas you think are great are good to somebody else. And just face it. It's a fact.
Exactly. Well, listen, Eric, this is a good place for us to break. And I want to pick up our conversation next week. When we come back, I want to start talking about that first gig with Tokyo Disneyland. Okay. As a park itself that you got assigned to. So with that, I'm going to say thank you for being on the Skull Rock podcast
this week. Reminder, you'll have the ability to book this offer where you get 25 to 35% on future resort stays. So go ahead and make sure that pretty awesome. The only way you're going to be able to do this is with Kristen. So be sure that you book with Kristen, and she'll save you time, money, aggravation, knows her way through the Disney system, and can help you book your magical trip for you, your family, your friends. Tell everybody you know, and book directly with her at themeparksandcruises@gmail.com.
Hello, this is Disney legend Bill Farmer, and you're listening to Skull Rock Podcast.
Skull Rock Podcast.
To infinity and beyond.
Exploring the outer reaches of the Disney galaxy.
Whoa! Oh, wow, you flew magnificently.
Wow, awesome interview with Eric. Dave, once again, what a personality. It's great to have him on the show.
It really is. You know, he's such a nice guy and an incredible talent. I really encourage people to check out his artwork at Eric Robson Art, all one word, ericrobsonart.com. I know, Aljon, you're going to put the link in our show notes. But I mean, he's done 100 Mickeys. He's got so many different things. Disney art, 50 Donalds. He's got, you know, Disneyland, Women of Disney. He's got his own architectural and industrial design images, which just off the charts incredible. He's just a wonderful artist, and I love his style. So check that out.
Yes, please do. And looking forward to the next program where we're going to dive even further with him. So that's going to be so much fun. And once again, if you love this show, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Please like, share, and subscribe to our show everywhere you find podcasts, and we're also on YouTube. So feel free to give us a like, share, and subscribe there on YouTube, and give us those comments. We love those 5-star reviews if you think we deserve them, and we will definitely chat up your comments in an upcoming episode. We're out everywhere on social media. Dave and I are now on Blue Sky as well. You can check that out. We're going to have Skull Rock Podcast is also on Blue Sky. We haven't posted anything yet, but we're going to. You know, we're also on Facebook, X. You know, Dave and I are both on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. I mean, you know it. You love it. We're there. We're going to try to be there more often. You can also email us once again, Dave at skullrockpodcast.com, or Aljon, ALJON, at skullrockpodcast.com. Don't forget to check me out. I'm also on Instagram as Aljon Go. Aljon Rocks on Twitter. You can also check out my other podcast, Dining at Disney, where my wife and I and also film critic Kat R. Corey, we talk about Disney parks and Disney food twice a week with Dining at Disney podcast. And we'll be back to wrap up another great season of ours. And then we're looking forward to the new year. It's the holiday season, so I know a lot of podcasts are going to be taking some time off to enjoy time with their families, but we appreciate you listening and subscribing to all of our shows. Dave?
Well, Aljon, as I've been saying for weeks, or if not months, you and I are going to be doing a show for the Skull Rock podcast in February 21st to 23rd. We'll be at the Animation Y'all Expo in Nashville, Tennessee. We hope a lot of people come down and say hi. We're going to have tons of stuff to give away. Also, I want to mention my Tunes Behind the Tunes show on SiriusXM, Disney Hits, channel 133. For the month of December. It's dropping on Tuesday, December 2nd, Beauty and the Beast, Belle for December. That's the song we're spotlighting, Belle from Beauty and the Beast. Also, check out my books at theoldmillpress.com, including my latest book, Find Your Happy Place, the 8-Step Guide to Boosting Your Creativity Through a Personal Retreat. And by the way, check out the reviews on Amazon. It's getting some stellar reviews. Nice. Also, my personal website, davidbossert.com. There's plenty of free content. And by the way, if you pick up one of my books and you want to get it autographed, you go to davidbossert.com. You can get a free signed book plate that's themed to many of my books. So check that out. With that, Aljon, I'm going to say it is the height of the shopping holiday season. Everybody, go out. Please be kind to one another. Be courteous. Slow down a little bit. There's a lot of people out on the roads, and some of them are doing some stupid things. So be defensive. And, go out and have a fantastic week as always. And we will see you back here next Monday, right here on the Skull Rock Podcast.